So this whole time I've been talking, I've been on mute. So let's start over for a third time. Third time's the charm, right? What's up, everybody? Artist Anderson here, your TRM leader. I hope you're feeling good because I'm feeling great. It is fellowship time, where tonight and every Wednesday for the month of March, we're talking about marriage and relationships, okay? So that's the third introduction, okay? So let me know real quick, can y'all see me? Number one, and number two, can y'all hear me? Let me know in the chat, because I want to make sure I do not go forward without that, okay? So let me know real quick, and then we're gonna get started. No, the screen is not supposed to be black. Okay, perfect. All right, we're live. Okay, perfect. All right, so tonight, let's dive right into it, right? We've been talking about relationships die without love, okay? And we've been breaking down every aspect of what love is, right? Not from the Hollywood version of love, not from the, Disney fairy tale love, but true God, biblical love, and what it really means to love someone, excuse me, and to display that love, okay? And on tonight, we're diving into the envy and the jealousy, okay? We're diving into the envy and the jealousy, okay? Now, as we dive into the envy and the jealousy, you're going to hear some things that you're probably dealing with. You're going to hear things that your spouse or your significant other is probably dealing with, right? And we want to bring awareness and highlight the dangers of this issue. So first, let's turn to 1 Corinthians chapter 13, and we're going to start at verse 4, and I'm going to read the Amplified version, okay? Where it says, verse 4, love endures with patience and serenity. So that's the first, remember, part one was patience, okay? Love is patient. So your relationship will die without patience. The second thing is love is kind and thoughtful. So that was part two. That was last week. But we talked about how your relationship will die without kindness and thoughtfulness, okay? And then it goes on to say in verse 4, and it is not jealous or envious. That's part three of this week. Love is not jealous and love is not envious. So inside of your marriage and inside of your relationship, if you are envious or jealous, it is going to hurt, damage, and even destroy your marriage or your relationship. Now, for a lot of people, they don't recognize their jealousy or their envy. And that's kind of what we want to talk to tonight as I teach, so that we can become more aware of what jealousy and envy looks like and what it sounds like, okay? And so, number one, let's read another scripture, Proverbs 14. Proverbs 14. So let's talk about the destructiveness of envy real quick. Proverbs 14, and we're going to look at verse 30, okay? Excuse me. Let's look at verse 30. Proverbs 14, verse 30. A calm and peaceful and tranquil heart is life and health to the body. So healthiness, right? Sorry, let me read it. Let me back my screen up a little bit. A calm and peaceful, tranquil heart is life and health to the body. You hear that, okay? It's all about health of the heart so that your body can be healthy, and your mind and your emotions, okay? So if your soul, your thoughts, feelings, and emotions are not healthy, and your body is going to what? Reap the consequences of an unhealthy thought, feeling, and emotion or soul, okay? And then what happens is it begins to come out in your relationship or your marriage, okay? But here's the second part. But passion and envy are like rottenness to the bones. That is Proverbs 14, verse 30. Proverbs 14, verse 30. Okay. Notice it says, envy is like rottenness to the bones. Envy is like rottenness to the bones. You do realize your body will deteriorate. You're welcome. You do realize that your body will deteriorate if your bones have rottenness in them. That's disease. That's decay. That's what it talks about. That envy rottens the relationship. That envy damages the relationship to the point where it disintegrates, or it digresses, or it almost, if anybody understands anything about bones, right, it's very possible for your bone to eat away at itself. I believe, don't quote me, I'm no medical professional. All I know is Jesus. He is the ultimate healer and physician. Amen. But when your bones are not functioning properly, okay, what happens is it starts to disintegrate and break and chip. And now your body begins to become unhealthy because of the bone marrow that's in the bone starts to get affected, et cetera, et cetera. Okay? That's a little bit of my knowledge. Don't quote me on that. But the point is, envy rottens the bones. So guess what it does? If we put that principle in place with our marriage and relationships, envy will rotten your relationship and your marriage. Okay? Let's look at Proverbs 14. In that same verse, let's look at the New Living Translation. It says, a peaceful heart leads to a healthy body, but jealousy is like cancer to the bones. So here is another description of the same verse. One verse describes envy as rottenness to the bones. Another verse describes jealousy as cancer to the bones. And we all know how destructive the disease of cancer is to the body. So imagine if your relationship or your marriage has that disease affecting it from a relationship standpoint. If that disease is interrupting your emotions, your feelings, how you see things, your perspectives, perceptions, right? And it leads to jealous situations and decisions and emotions and all these other things, right? We're just kind of going through some preliminary things right now. Let's look at Proverbs 27, verse 4. Proverbs 27, verse 4. Proverbs 27, verse 4 in the New Living Translation. Okay, it says this. Anger is cruel and wrath is like a flood, but jealousy is even more dangerous. Let me read it in the New King James Version, because I like this part. In the New King James Version, it says, wrath is cruel and anger is a torrent. But who is able to stand before jealousy? So the question is, how can your relationship stand or survive jealousy? It can't. What is the point? The point is, if jealousy and envy is taking over the individual, it's going to eventually take over the relationship and the marriage, and your marriage cannot stand. It just can't. It just can't. So if I can propose this question, how can your relationship survive with jealousy? How can your relationship survive with envy? It can't. Now, I'm going to talk about this later, but I want to talk about this while it's fresh in my mind. Insecurity is heightened because of jealousy and envy. And jealousy and envy is heightened because of insecurity. So there is an interwoven connection between jealousy, envy, and insecurity. Why? Because they both and all affect each other interconnected wise. So again, I say, how can your marriage and relationship stand with jealousy in it? It cannot. So you have one option. Get rid of the jealousy. Get rid of the envy. You may ask, how do I do that? Well, there's a lot of different ways. Let's talk about that at the end of this, okay? Well, while it's on our fresh in our mind, let me give you one way. You have to identify why you are insecure in the first place. Why you're jealous in the first place, why you're envious. When you can identify why and accept the why and understand that you need help getting over it, that becomes the basis of how you begin to make sure that that insecurity or that jealousy or that envy doesn't ruin the marriage. Because here is the problem. For most people, instead of just coming out and saying, I'm jealous, I'm envious, they will, in their pride, mask and hide the issue of being jealous and envious and ask a whole bunch of questions, become very inquisitive, become very assuming, and pick and poke and pry and create all of these unnecessary issues. And the other person is like, well, why are you doing this? What is going on? What is the real issue? And because of our pride, we're not just coming out and saying, I'm jealous and I'm envious. And guess what it does? It rottens the relationship. It rottens the marriage. And so again, I say, how can your marriage or your relationship stand when there is jealousy or envy? It cannot, okay? So let's keep going. Let me tie my hair back up. Boom. Good. So I'm gonna keep getting them up. Sorry, I just had to tie my hair back up. All right. So let's go forward. The Bible says love is not envious and love is not jealous. That's what the Bible says. So let's look at this. What is the definition of envy? Envy means to burn or to be heated or to have hatred or anger or displaced emotions, okay? That's what that means, okay? It means to exert oneself, okay, for one that he may not be torn from an individual, okay? It also means a feeling of discontentment or resentment or longing to be aroused by someone else's possessions, qualities, or luck, okay? Let me say that again. A feeling of discontented or resentful longing aroused by someone else's possessions, qualities, or luck. Listen to the definition. Envy is a feeling of discontented or resentful longing aroused by someone else's possessions, qualities, or luck. Okay? Envy is wanting what someone else has. You might see a neighbor with a new car. A coworker might get a new job, right? And you might desire the same job. And it's like, wow, I can't believe they got it. And you're envious of them, okay? You might feel a sense of resentment towards the individual for attaining something that you want, but haven't yet achieved, okay? So envy is the pain you feel when you see others getting something that you want. So now, what is jealousy? Jealousy is the war created when there is an emotional competition or rivalry. Pay attention. Jealousy is the war created when there is an emotional competition or rivalry. It's the war when there's a mental competition or rivalry. It's the war where there is a physical competition or rivalry. So for example, you see your spouse or significant other talking to another person of the opposite sex. There's that emotional war. It's like, why? What's going on with them? Why are they talking to him like that? Why is their body moving like that? Why is it? Why are you so? Why are they so into this conversation? What are they talking about? All these inquisitive, inquiring thoughts and feelings, right? It's a war that's being created. And the jealousy is the aspect of you're not just taking it at face value, that, oh, they're just having a conversation. The jealousy part is the in-depth thought about that. What is that? What is going on? Is there something inappropriate? It doesn't look right. It doesn't sound right. It doesn't fit. So it's all of that stuff. So when you get into the mental and the physical aspect, right, you might see your spouse touch someone on the shoulder, or you might see someone being friendly, or you'll call it flirtatious, right? The point is, jealousy is a war going on in the emotions, the mental, and even the physical, to where now it's a rivalry, okay? Now, let's keep going. Jealousy is the fear of losing out on anything you believe should be yours alone. Jealousy is the fear of losing out on anything you believe should be yours alone or primarily, right? Jealousy is about holding on to something you already have, okay? Jealousy is more about holding on to something you already have that you feel somebody else is threatening to have or take, okay? You might experience jealousy in a relationship where you perceive a threat or worry that the relationship is changing in a negative way. Then some jealousy might arise from there too, right? But let's go forward. That's just some foundational things, okay? So what is relationship envy? How does this pertain to relationships? Relationship envy is wanting something that someone else wanting something else, wanting something that someone else has, okay? So envy is a dangerous emotion and it's very destructive. Remember that. It's a very dangerous and destructive emotion. Envy can easily and often occur within a relationship in multiple ways. So people might envy their own partner for various reasons, which could cause friction, arguments, tension, resentment, right? But the worst part is your partner might not even know what the issue is. And that's the crazy part. Make sure y'all go back and watch this a few times because it's a lot of information I'm giving, okay? Envy within your own relationship is dangerous. So not only are you having to understand that envy can ruin your relationship with outside parties or situations, but you can also have relationship envy with your own significant other and your own spouse, right? Outside friendships, outside circumstances, outside people can all be part of the problem when it comes to the envy within you. Your personal envy issue can become more than what it needs to be, okay? Why? Because you have a personal insecurity within you, and now that envy issue is now affecting the relationship based on outside things, right? You might want to know, well, why is this coworker calling you while we're trying to have dinner? Like, is that war, right? You're trying to understand what's going on, and it's like, well, sorry, that's more jealousy. But the envy is more like, you know, let me get into it right now, right? Envy outside of the relationship could be, you know, you are watching another relationship and you see that they travel a lot. And so that envy outside of your relationship, you bring into your relationship. Well, why can't we travel that much? And it begins to create a problem because your envy is based on another relationship. And that's destructive to your relationship. And when you start trying to pattern your relationship around someone else's, you don't genuinely have an honest relationship. What you have is a copycat of someone else's. And that causes a problem because your significant other or your spouse begins to say, well, where is this coming from? And most of the time, we're not honest. We're not able to say, well, one, we're not honest, or we're not able to communicate, hey, I was looking at somebody else and I want that and I don't have it. So because we have a lot of pride, we're not going to just admit the real issue. We're going to talk our way around it, and that creates more problems. Instead of communicating directly and being honest about what it is, or simply we don't know how to communicate it, we talk around it, and that creates more of a problem because now there's frustration because I can't even comprehend what's going on. I don't know what the issue is. All right, so now let's keep going to more. Envy over others, friendships, right? You might be envious of your spouse because of their friendships. You might be envious of your spouse because of their social media platforms or their popularity. You might be envious of their success, their upbringing, their family, their opportunities. You might be envious of their recognition that they receive. You might be envious of their opposite sex attention. You might be envious of the fact that they get a whole lot of attention and you don't get a lot of attention. You can be envious of their accolades. You can be envious of their salary, how much money they make. There's a whole lot of things you can find envy in for a lot of people, right? But the goal is for us to understand how destructive these things are. And if you are aware that this is part of your issue, you have to correct it so that you don't lose the marriage or the relationship. Well, what is relationship jealousy? Well, relationship jealousy is an emotional reaction or feeling when it appears someone has access to what is yours, but you should be the only one that have access to it. Again, an emotional reaction or feeling when it appears someone else has access to what is yours, but you feel you should be the only one to have access to it. That's where jealousy comes in. Nobody else should be able to call you after 10 o'clock but me. Why is this person calling you? Now, to you, it might be a respect issue or a boundary issue, and that's perfectly fine, right? But we also have to be honest about that. It could be a jealousy issue. Because if you did not have any fear that this individual was cheating on you, it may not be as big an issue as you thought. See, sometimes we have to look deep within ourselves and ask ourselves, why is this really a problem? And a lot of times we hide what the real problem is on top of what we will call respect or principles or boundaries. And I'm not here to disagree with you. There should be boundaries. There should be respect. But while we address the boundaries and while we address the respect, let's also address the underlying issue that you aren't bringing up. That you don't like the fact that this person did this and that it made you jealous. Whatever it is, it could be anything, not just somebody calling too late. It could be a text message, anything. It could be the way someone speaks to you or your significant other. It could be any of those things, okay? Jealousy is the constant suspicion of a violation or threat to your relationship. It is the constant suspicion of a violation or threat to your relationship. Relationship jealousy is when doubt creeps in based on a perception or a perspective. Perception is what you interpret. So you see your spouse or significant other having a conversation with somebody, and based on what you see, your perception, you interpret what's going on. Perspective is being able to say, okay, I'm looking at what I see, and this is the way I see it. So it's two different things, perspective versus perception, okay? But here's the key. Everyone has vulnerabilities, and every relationship has to be able to acknowledge that and make them known. Jealousy oftentimes is the symptom of insecurity. Jealousy, a lot of times, is the symptom of insecurity. So when jealousy is the symptom of insecurity, we have to deal with that thing that we're not secure in, okay? And it can be a number of things that we're not secure in. We might not be secure in how we look, or how much money we make, or the type of job I have, or my career, or it might be I'm not secure with the car I drive. I might not be secure with how long my hair is. I might not be secure with how my mouth is, or my nose, or whatever it might be, my body type, my weight, my height, whatever it is. We understand that it can cause jealousy issues, okay? Now, in some opinions, jealousy is a normal feeling most people have, generally speaking, okay? And it may be caused by a situation, a circumstance, or an isolated problem that created that tends to get resolved if dealt with appropriately. So the point is that there are times where jealousy comes about because of an isolated situation. That's perfect. At least we know that I got jealous because of this one thing, and now I can understand and recognize that if I just deal with this one thing, that situation is dealt with and is done with for good, okay? So now let's look at it. Now let's keep going. The problematic jealousy is the constant jealousy that doesn't tend to go away. That's the problematic jealousy. And when the Bible says love is not jealous, love is not insecure, love is not jealous, love is not insecure. When you keep having trust issues, when you keep having, these thoughts about, hey, what is my spouse doing? Or you feel like something's always going on, or you feel like this is happening, or you don't like how this looks. So now control begins to come into the situation. Okay? That jealousy is the branch grown out due to the tree of insecurity. Okay? Most jealousy is driven by strong, overwhelming feelings of ideas of things that we believe is happening, even if it's not happening. lots of times these ideas might not even be true. But we create a problem in our marriage or relationship because of what we perceive to be true, or what we think or see, the way we see it, it might be true, okay? And that becomes a big issue, okay? So watch this. When we understand, okay, a few things, it helps us to get to the bottom of it, right? Most jealousy is a human reaction causing us to attempt to protect what is perceived to be ours alone, okay, against a possible threat, okay? But here's the issue. These feelings can quickly get out of control and damage the marriage. So I feel like something is about to threaten our closeness, our fidelity, our honesty. And what happens is now we start to quickly lose control of the situation because of our feelings and our emotions that are rising. And now we begin to see that, hey, this is becoming an issue now, this constant jealousy, this constant envy, okay? So jealousy in a relationship or a marriage can often be related to your personal individual insecurities than about significant others' actions. So this is the big point. You have to be able to determine, is the jealousy issue because of you or really because of the other person's actions? Now, here is the issue. For many people, they will say that their insecurity or their jealousy is because of what somebody else is doing. That may be true to a degree, but we must first and foremost always take responsibility for our personal issue. Just because somebody is on their phone doesn't mean they're doing anything inappropriate. Just because somebody went out of town doesn't mean they're going to do anything inappropriate. Just because they're having a conversation with the opposite sex doesn't mean that anything is happening that shouldn't happen. See, we have to deal with our own selves before we look at the other person and say, your behavior, your decisions, your movement is making me jealous, or your behavior, your movements, your decisions, your actions is creating the problem. We have to be able to deal with this appropriately. And that begins by looking at yourself, okay? Remember, for the most part, generally speaking, if you've been cheated on or taken advantage of, or simply had a traumatic experience or a hurtful, painful experience when it comes to relationships or marriage, then that planted seeds of insecurity leading to your jealousy and envy issues. So part of what you've been through is part of the trauma and the experience of why in your relationship, your jealousy or your envy keeps creeping up in times where nothing is really going on. Now, if you have been cheated on in your marriage, or you have been betrayed or violated in your relationship or your marriage, then now what has to happen is whoever is the one that caused or created the violation, they have to be patient in giving the other person who was betrayed time to move past it. You can't rush that. But understand that the jealousy is still a problem. Yes, it happened. Yes, you need time to work through it. Yes, but you must understand that in your time and working through it, that it is still a dangerous, destructive, problematic emotion, and that it needs to be worked through efficiently. You can't be lackadaisical about it. You can't take your time with it. You have to be diligent about getting the help you need to work past your issue of jealousy and envy. Okay? And it doesn't mean it has to happen overnight or be rushed. It just means you have to be diligent about it. You can't go months on time and say, see, you cheated on me, so you need to just be patient while I get over it. No. That's just making somebody relive their mistake and their shame and their guilt and their embarrassment. And we understand that you're the victim, but they hurt themselves too by doing it and making this bad decision by violating the trust. And so what they have to do is they need a little bit of love from you too. And you have to be diligent about, as difficult as it may be, you have to understand that they don't want to keep reliving their shame or reliving their hurt. But I'm sure we have to understand that if you put this person through it, both people need time. But the big point is, you have to identify and understand and accept that jealousy and envy is dangerous, and it has no place in love, and it has no place in marriage. So regardless of why it is existing in the individual or in the relationship or the marriage, you have to deal with it appropriately and get it out of your marriage. Because love cannot prosper with jealousy and envy existing in the marriage and the relationship. Okay? Jealousy may be driven by low self-esteem, poor self-image, anything of that nature. It can be anything related to what you're involved in, like your career, anything, right? Nowadays, it can be rooted in anything. But if you don't feel attractive and confident, it can be hard to truly believe that your partner loves and values you. If you don't believe you're talented, it's going to be difficult for people outside of your sphere who is commending you on your talents to really believe what they're saying. So the point is that regardless of what side of the spectrum you are on, whether you're the jealous one or you are being patient with somebody who is jealous or envious, the point is jealousy and envy is destructive to a relationship and a marriage. And whatever needs to be done on both sides, it needs to be done diligently and efficiently. Why? Because as long as that issue or problem is in the marriage, love cannot fully prosper. Love cannot fully do its work. And it's going to be difficult to overcome, almost impossible to overcome. Okay? True love is not jealous. Real love is not envious. Okay? True love is supportive. It pushes to see each other succeed and do well. There is no insecurity about who makes the most money. There is no arguing about who is more important or more valuable to the relationship. There is no ill feelings when one person's career is going forward and taking off when the other person's career might not be just yet. There is no resentment of one person's career doing better than the other. There is no pride or resentment when one person is getting recognition from their job or their community or their fan base or social media. Love is not envious and love is not jealous, okay? Love doesn't create this suspicion and assumptions that somebody's always cheating or doing something to violate your trust. That's not love, and your relationship will die without love. So love is not envious and love is not jealous, okay? True love isn't looking to bring you down just because it is perceived one person is doing better than the other. Because that happens a lot of times in relationships. The other person is envious, and so now they stop being supportive. They stop being there for that person. They stop congratulating and bigging them up and all these types of things, right? Why? Because they're envious or they're jealous. But love is not envious and love is not jealous, okay? Jealousy is poison. Envy is poison. It is an infection. And guess what? It is a slow-working, destructive agent to your relationship and your marriage. Jealousy can cause and lead to many feelings from insecurity, irrational behavior, uneasiness, suspicion, rejection, fear, anger, anxiety. Do you see all of these destructive branches to the tree that is rooted called envy and jealousy? Think about this. When jealousy is in your relationship or envy is in your relationship, right? We're talking about insecurity, irrational behavior, right? Irrational behavior. We're talking about not just irrational behavior, but we're talking about uneasiness, suspicion, and all of these other things that are very destructive, right? And so what we have to do is make sure that we are on guard that we are not creating problems based on our insecurity or our jealousy or our envy. Why? Because it is very, very destructive. When jealousy and envy enters a relationship, it's coming to steal your joy, kill your joy, ruin your happiness, destruct any type of foundation that you have. It's coming to steal the peaceful moments, the gentle opportunities to enjoy each other and love each other, okay? So I need you to understand that. Both envy and jealousy is the enemy of contentment. That's a big one. Envy and jealousy hinders contentment. How can you be content and really happy for your spouse or anybody else? How can you do that if you're not content because of your envy and your jealousy? How can you truly enjoy your own marriage and relationship if you're so busy looking at other people's relationship and marriage and what they're doing and what they're achieving and what they have, that you're not taking the time to appreciate your own? Now, some of you may say, but what if I want more out of my marriage? What if I want more out of my relationship? Well, this is what you do. You sit your spouse down and you talk about it. You set goals to get there. You talk about how you can maneuver your way to the places you want to be. But you don't bring the problem into your marriage in the posture or the behavior or the attitude of, wow, we don't got this. We don't never do this. And you'll never do me like that. You'll never treat me. And it's like, where is all this coming from? Because you're looking outside of your relationship. You're looking outside of your marriage. You're so busy being unhappy that you don't know how to be happy in your marriage, in your relationship. You're envious. And a lot of times people's envy, if I can go here, a lot of times people's envy is simply because you'll never be that. Because you're not created to be that. Can you imagine a turtle looking at a lion and being envious? Well, they're never going to be happy because that turtle is never going to be a lion. Can you imagine the destructive feelings you are going to have by constantly looking outside of your relationship or your marriage, or looking at the spouse in your marriage and relationship and continuously being envious and jealous? You can never have what somebody else has to the T because y'all are two different people. You can never be your spouse and your spouse can never be you. Y'all are two different people. Y'all are to enjoy each other, celebrate each other. You're coming together to do life with each other, not to be envious and jealous. So you have to work on your own personal issues as to why you are jealous and envious. Both envy and jealousy is the enemy of contentment because we cannot live in grateful contentment when we are focused on what we don't have. When you're so focused on what you don't have, guess what's going to happen? You're going to be discontent. Now, if you are not getting your needs met in your marriage or relationship, you have to express that. And that's perfectly fine. Express that. That is perfectly fine. But do it in a healthy way. Don't let the jealousy and the envy create irrational behavior, rude responses, right? Pride and ego and very destructive talk and behavior. You don't want to create those problems. When you are unhappy in a relationship, okay? Any and everything you see that you desire, like or want, will become the object of your affection and attention. And that will become the thing at the forefront of your mind. And now, because you don't have that thing, you begin to create friction out of frustration and bitterness. Simply put, when you're unhappy in your marriage or relationship, anything you see that you want or desire in life, you're going to put all of your feelings and emotions and attention onto that thing. And guess what's going to happen? It's going to create friction in your marriage. bitterness in your relationship. Okay? Jealousy and envy is rooted in the relationship because it's rooted in the person. It's rooted in the person. Okay? When we see other people living a life that we desire, our envy will continuously destroy that relationship. When we see other people doing things we desire to do, traveling places we desire to travel, right? Or you might see your girlfriend or your homeboy, right? They're getting certain types of treatment in their marriage or relationship. And now you become envious of your friend's marriage or your friend's relationship. And if I can go here, that's how a lot of infidelity happens within friendships. Now you sleeping with your best friend husband, your husband sleeping with your wife, and all types of stuff going on because you're jealous of what they're getting in their marriage and you're not getting it. And instead of communicating what you want, you're going outside to get it. So we have all sorts of issues that can derive from jealousy and envy. Okay, all sorts of issues that can derive from jealousy and envy. So watch this. Here's a big thing. Jealousy and envy, okay, becomes an issue, right? When it comes to us seeing what someone else has in a certain person. For example, your partner might not be as attractive as this other person in your opinion. So now you find ways to try to change something about that person. Try to change the way they dress. Try to change because you're envious, right? You want to be able to walk around with the spouse that dresses like this. You want to be able to walk around, and flaunt a person that wears this type of hairstyle because you're envious of the attention that somebody else is getting on social media or the amount of likes that somebody else is getting based on what they wear, where they go, what they drive. And so if I'm talking about a lot of surface level things, but they're all rooted in deep issues that we're not content or happy. And we have allowed envy and jealousy to take over our marriage and relationships. And love now cannot blossom and create and cause a beautiful marriage and relationship because envy is rotten it. Remember, in the beginning, I said envy and jealousy is rottenness to the bones. So now your relationship and marriage is rotten because of this envy and jealousy. You are not in competition with each other, right? So it doesn't matter who makes the most money. You all are a team. You're a partnership. So I want to conclude with this. Here are some steps to overcome envy and jealousy. Number one, ask yourself this question. Why am I jealous in the first place? Why do I have envy in the first place? Is it because of how I was raised? Did I not have certain things? And now when I see it, I want it and wish I had it in myself or my personal life? Is it that I never had a relationship with, genuine affection and I desire that? What is the root of your jealousy or your envy? Have you been cheated on, violated, and now you don't trust anybody? So whatever it is, you have to acknowledge it and be honest about it and communicate that. Number two, right? Well, I've already said it. Acknowledge and accept that you are envious and jealous, right? And break it down from there. You have to get over your pride and your embarrassment. It's okay. If you're dealing with jealousy and envy, it's okay. It's not the end of the world. You're not the last person or the first person to have dealt with jealousy or envy. Okay? Number three, begin to work on transforming your mind, your thought process, your perceptions, your perspectives. You have to deal with your rooted issues as to why you are insecure and begin to work on transforming your thought process. For example, every conversation isn't an inappropriate conversation happening. Every text message is not that person doing something slick or sly. Everything that happens isn't something bad that's going on. Number four, get to the source and identify the source of your envy and jealousy. Is it past hurt? Is it a lack of attention? Is it abandonment? Is it discontentment? Is it because you were cheated on before? Whatever the case may be, right? Number 5, get feedback from the person you are jealous of, okay? And what I mean by that is don't go to some stranger. I'm talking about if you're jealous of your partner, if you're jealous of your spouse or envious of, your friendships relationship, go to them and say, hey, listen, I see y'all's relationship and I'm envious and I'm jealous, How did y'all get to the point where y'all became so close and affectionate? Learn from other people to see what you can bring to your marriage and relationship in a healthy way. Now, that doesn't mean you need to try to force your spouse or significant other to do something they don't want to do, but at least you can open the conversation, okay? Right? And also what I mean by get feedback, talk to some people close to you. Ask them, am I a jealous person? Have I shown, previous behaviors of being envious or jealous in my relationships? Have I shown this in my friendships or my job? Now you can kind of gauge, am I a jealous person? Is it part of my makeup? Am I an envious person, or am I jealous or envious because of a specific situation that happened? And once I get past that one thing, I'm good. Like, this is why you need the feedback. But all in all, let's conclude, right? Jealousy and envy is an enemy of love. Relationships die without love. So in order for your love and your relationships to live and be successful and flourish, you need love. And love is not envious and love is not jealous. So you need to get rid of the jealousy and the envy so that your relationship and your marriage can be successful. Okay? I will stop there. I love y'all. Do we have any questions? You can type it in the chat if you have any questions. Now, there may have been some questions that I did not see because I'm not able to see every thing on my end. So forgive me for that. But I don't think there are any questions. So if you have any questions for those who are watching this later, past the streaming time, feel free to comment in the comments below your questions, and I'll get to them as soon as possible. Appreciate you all. Do me a favor and text Forever Love, the number 4, to 833-663-0733. Okay, join the community where we send out relationship advice and encouragement. And we will see you all next week for part 4. See you all next time.